Hi, fourth graders. We're going to go over Valley of the Moon, the story that you read this week. Starting with our page here. This is Maria Rosalia, and she was orphaned with her brother, and the padre at the Mission Rafael in California then started to help the children, and he taught them how to read and write. So she learned to read and write by being in the lesson for boys, which we'll talk about later. So she has her diary, and we find that she got her diary from the eldest girl that she is serving. She's a servant at the Medina Ranch. And so the Medina family, the girl and boy are servants to the Medina family. All right. Magella is one of the girls there. There's 3 daughters in the Medina family, and Magella was mad at Senor Henry Johnston, and so she threw her diary over the balcony, and it landed right here in the water. And Maria took it out and decided to keep it. So she has a flashback here where she talks about how she's been thinking of the padre who raised her, or who for a short time there, and he gave her name, Maria Rosalia. Maria after the Virgin Mary, and Rosalia after the roses that she had put on her mother who had smallpox. Then, and her mother had then shortly after that passed away. And then her brother Domingo was named that because Domingo in Spanish means Sunday, and it was a Sunday when all this had happened. So they continue to serve. They talk about how they don't know their father. It was obvious that he was not Indian like they are. They thought maybe Indian and half Spanish, or perhaps a white man. So they're not sure, but they are Indian, and they're being raised now in a Spanish home. Lupita and Gregorio are the closest thing they have to parents. That's the cook and her husband. They didn't have children, and so they kind of take care of and raise these kids a little bit. She continues to write in her diary as we see different days. Here we have Rosalia in her room that she shares with someone else, so she's constantly having to hide her diary. She doesn't want to get caught that she's writing in this diary. And they describe the room a little bit. They talk about how Ramona saves scraps and makes this nice bright wall hanging. It's small, but it's a small place, but it's okay. It's better than some of the other places she's been. And she talks on the 13th about when the Medina daughters saw her in the courtyard with the diary, and they just kind of, the oldest one kind of made fun of her with it, and saying that, maybe she could use it for for kindling. And then the other 2 sisters had a little bit different attitude. One told her sister to stop because she is more like a family member to them, and the other one was younger than her and more like a little sister. So then October 14th, another chore she has is feeding the goats. And milking the goats, and she milked the goats really quickly. We find out that she doesn't have any quill or ink to work with, so she uses the beet juice. And then Senor Johnston shows up many times because he is going to wants to marry Senorita Magella. Again, we know her attitude towards Senorita Magella by the things she says. May heaven help him, or talking about if she had pesos, she'd pay for somebody to take her away. So her attitude towards her is not very, she doesn't like her very much. They talk about the different way people feel about the people coming to California. And at this time, remember, it is Spanish, or Mexican government owned, and they talk about how people dislike the people that are coming. It says Lupita does not trust the Norte Americanos, or the North Americans. She says they are supposed to be loyal Mexican citizens, learn to speak Spanish, and become Catholics in exchange for land. But not all of them agree to do that, or don't agree. She especially dislikes the foreigner Johann Sutter, who encourages other foreigners to come to California illegally without permission from the Mexican government. Okay, again, this is a cultural situation, a historical situation, and they're in California, but this is a point where it was still owned by Mexico. All right, so she's working in the courtyard again. In her diary, she talks a lot about what she has to do, what she does for the family, and how the Medinas are a family who basically decided to build a second story and add on to their house when they saw somebody else had the second story in one of their houses. And so it's kind of that idea, well, we want it too. Then on the last page here, we see a situation where she was discovered writing in her diary by Senor Johnston. And Senor Johnston wasn't going to tell anybody that she learned how to read and write by the Padre when she was helping her brother learn to read and write, because he didn't like the lessons at all. So she sat in the back and helped him. And in return, he was excited for her, and he went into his bag and he gave her a bottle of ink, a brass point that will go on the quills, then that she could write with. So he gave her 2 turkey quills, a bottle of ink, and a brass point to encourage her, to help her in her writing. So as you've gone through this, you just see this life of this girl here, Maria Rosalia. We follow her life as we go through her diary. How she feels about writing, how she feels about the family, what her chores are. It definitely is a piece of her history. She's writing down her life story, and how she feels about things. So that is the story of the week. Okay, going through your vocab that are in here, let's just kind of go through these. All right, so it's historical fiction, and we have the word eldest, which means oldest. We have discarded, which means thrown away. Obedience, which means to do as you are told. Then we don't have any highlighted words on this page. Depicts, shows, right? A wool tapestry, one of the finest embroidered hanging that shows the Holy Virgin, and so depicts means to show. Ignored, right? To not pay attention to. She has a great beauty, but has ignored all the men who have called on her. Don't pay attention to their proposals. She doesn't want to, she always is saying no to the men that come that want to marry her. Refuge, a safe place, a place you feel safe. It is my island of refuge in a sea of work. The diary is her refuge. The diary is her place where she wants to be, that she feels safe and that she enjoys. And I think that's, one more, detested. Another word for hates. Domingo, who hates lessons and being indoor. So he hates doing work. He wants to be outside. He doesn't want to do these works. He hates the lessons. Okay? So that is your review on your vocabulary and on this story. When you take your test, remember you can always use your books. Look through your book, look through your dictionary in the back of your book for your vocabulary, and I hope that it all goes well.